I don't want to pick them earlier than you want them picked.
I'll just pick the ones that are pretty full like this. Today Matt and I are in the bean patch. We're in the bean rows right now picking beans. We've already had one picking of beans this year, one canning that we canned, which was mostly rattlesnake beans. They do so good if you've never grown them. This is only our second year, but we really love them and really are impressed by how well they produce. And then also some peanut beans. We picked those one time. This is the first year we've grown peanut beans. But so far they're doing good. So today we were looking over our greasy beans. That's these two long rows that you can see behind me, and to see if any of them were ready to pick yet. We've been really dry here in the southern Appalachian Mountains where I live in Brasstown. I know some people's had a lot of rain, but we've been really dry. But in the last few days we've been getting some afternoon thunderstorms, which is typically what we do have, so we've been getting some rain. And then this morning we had wonderful couple of hours of rain, just a steady rain, and that was great. Things are already, the ground's still damp, but the plants are already dried off just from the heat after the sun come out. I've always thought there's two magical places. Everything about Appalachia, as silly and corny as it sounds, but the landscape of Appalachia, you'll hear people talk about its magic. It really is, even though I don't necessarily believe in magic. But magic is just the only word that you can describe it, because it's just so mesmerizing. Maybe there's a better word. If there is, if you think there's a better word, please let me know. But it somehow is magical, everything, from the creeks to the high mountains to the deep dark hollers, all of it. But in the summer garden, since I was a little girl, two things that I think are magical. Now, I think all the plants are. When you get that first fresh spring vegetables out of the garden, whether it's a radish or some lettuce or a green onion or your first bowl of kilt lettuce, all that's wonderful. But where you really feel magic is, to me, is there's two places. One of them is a cornfield, and we don't have corn anymore. But I used to be in Pap's big cornfield, and I would just adore it. It's when it gets tall, and it's magical at different times. When it's tall enough to start tasseling as we would say, and all the bees are working it, that's really magical. But then after that, when you're in the rows and it's dark and shady, and you're pulling rosiners, pulling corn, I used to love to go with Pap to do that. And you see sometimes there's morning glories that's worked their way up through the corn, beautiful flowers. It's just a magical place to be in the middle of all that bounty. Well, the second magical place that I think's magical in the garden is the bean patch, for the same reason. You can look, if you look here, see these two walls of green. It's just, and sometimes by the end of summer it's almost like a tunnel, because one of my dear friends, Kenneth Roper, used to say they're holding hands across the aisle. So you can see right here's a bean tendril that's trying to reach across and hold hands on the other side of the aisle. I always thought that was really sweet when Kenneth said that, and I never see him that I don't think about him and think about him telling me that. So another thing, along with all that hand holding across the aisle, that's magical. Of course right now it's magical because see who's in it, Matt? You make it magical. He makes it magical. But at the very end down there, Matt, if you bend over or scoot up or something, you can see the phlox blooming down there way at the end, the pink phlox. It's so pretty. On this side I have flowers. On the other side, back here, there's phlox all the way down through there blooming. It's not only beautiful, it smells good. Of course, in the bean rows, you often see blooms. You can see bean blooms blooming, the beans blooming before the actual bean starts growing. And then, of course, the magic of the bean. Green beans is just such a huge part of the diet, the foodways of Appalachia. When I was growing up and today, and when Granny and Pap was growing up, it's just such a versatile plant. that is easy to grow for most folks, depending on, even no matter what kind of soil you've got. Green beans usually typically do pretty good for people. And then they're wonderful canned, they're wonderful dried for leather breeches, so just really a huge part, plays a huge role in the foodways of Appalachia, so that's magic in itself. Of course, while you're in the cornfield or in the bean patch or anywhere in the garden in the summer, you get to hear those wonderful magical sounds of summer. Right now, can you hear that? I hear the jar flies. Of course, I hear the birds tweeting and talking. Jar flies are really, really a comforting sound, a welcome sound. I can hear them in several different places now. Anyway, all that are the reasons that I think a bean patch or a cornfield is just two of the most magical places on earth. One thing, though, that is not magical in the bean patch, you can see the damage done by them, is Japanese beetles. So they love to get on beans. And in the last few videos, I've had people kind of in the comments talking about what do you do for them. Well, neem oil is a good thing that you can use that's all natural. Of course, you could use Sevin dust or something like the old timers did, but most people don't want to use something that's not all natural. So neem oil, we've used it often. One thing that we do, which is really labor intensive, but because we have chickens, during the day, you know, maybe I'm busy working on something and I just need to take a break and I need to go outside and just kind of, you know, regroup or whatever. I'll just take a quick stroll through the yard. Katie will do the same thing while she's working. She's working on her jewelry. If Corey's here, she'll do it too. And so while we're walking, we just take a glass, a cup, anything, a bowl, whatever you want, and put water in it. And then as you go along and you see those Japanese beetles, because if you've ever tried to kill them, a lot of times when you're trying to grab them, they'll fly off and then they'll be gone, and you can't, of course you can't get them. But you can squish them with your fingers if you want to do that. One of my friends told me one time that was his job when he was little, was just to get them and squish them. But instead of doing that, I drop them in that water, carry a little cup of water and put them in it, and then they can't get out. And then after I've made a whole round around through the beans, because they love apple trees, they love blackberries, they love my grapevines, all those things. I'll check all those places, and once I've made a trip, then I take them straight to the chickens and pour them out on the ground, and then they take care of them. They love the treat of the bugs, and then at least I know those won't be back in here. But that is something that we battle every year, is Japanese beetles. Now, someone the other day left a comment, and I can't remember if it was on my blog or on one of the videos, but he said what he had always done, was that he used lime. Because, of course, a lot of times you add lime to your soil, and he put it in a little sifter, like maybe a empty baby powder or anything like that has holes, like a powder dispenser. And you can even buy those, I know, or you can make them like Pap used to do for his Sevin dust. But he would put it in the lime, and then he just squirts it on them, on the tops of his leaves. And he said he'd done that for years, and it worked for him. And then he didn't feel bad about using the lime. He didn't think it was harmful to him, and you know, he'd been doing it and felt comfortable. So I don't know. That's something you might want to investigate. So in the days when Pap did use Sevin dust, he would just take an old empty can, like maybe beans come in or beanie weenies or whatever, and then he would take a nail and poke holes in the bottom of it, and then he filled that up, and then as he tapped it, that was his sifter. He would just pretty much make a, you know, if he lost it, no big deal, he'd just make another one the next year.
time. I'm just tired of paying. Smell like you're gonna be making pickles. Some of them green, some of them yellow.
Those are the white saucer.
Like what?
No, those are the, let's see. There's the gooseberry and the golden nugget over here. And I'm thinking that's the golden nugget, but one of these I have marked. Right there, gooseberry. Okay, so that's the gooseberry. Okay, then maybe this little bitty one's the, I don't know. Look good?
It's fair.
Fair. So maybe not
It ain't like a sun gold or nothing.
Okay.
You're gonna taste it and see. I mean, it ain't bad. It's just, it ain't got that explosive flavor.
No. Ain't very good, is it?
Oh, now that little dude right there is a different story. That's off that plant. Mine's pretty good.
Mm. So this must be the golden nugget.
Yeah, these ain't all that good.
So golden nugget's a go. I mean a yes, and the gooseberries a no.
This little jewel. I think I'll have one of them too.
Well, that's a black cherry.
Oh yeah, I know they're good. My gosh, that's what I'm talking about.
You know, all these over here that I planted that was supposed to be black cherry, they're not black cherries. Oh, they're good. That may be the only black cherry plant there is. Those are Italian paste. Or either the, that's the sausage pepper. Cream and sausage. Sausage pepper, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Sausage and gravy?
Yeah, cream and sausage. And I ate one of those for breakfast this morning. It was good. Those rattlesnake beans are impressive, ain't they?
Yeah, I just hope they like them like we always have the old ones, because they
I
sure
like
do.
them. I can't tell much difference.
Well, I don't remember the difference between them and the other ones, but
Corey claims she can tell a difference.
We just need to isolate them and eat them. And if they're just as good, or we like them as good, just plant all of it that next year because they good night they put out.
Yeah. Which the greasy beans are kind of slow coming on.
Yeah, and I like them,
but yeah, it's amazing how much that little patch in the back. At the very
Yeah.
least, next year we could swap if you wanted to, and do rattlesnake beans in the front and do some greasies in the back.
well,
One thing we should have done, I meant to do, which we could still do, be good, especially if we think it's going to rain tonight, is now that I found that peanut seed plant down there where the lettuce and stuff, there's an empty space, plant one more row of peanut beans down there.
yeah.
It would take 5 minutes.
I seen this week that white hay runners was $45 a bushel this year.
They are. Donna texted me and sent me a picture and asked me if that was a good deal. I said no. Granny's been getting them at that SMM Farms in Hayesville for 35 a bushel. And they were 38 last year, so they're up there at that farm, so they're less.
My 15 SPF here.
Huh?
15 SPF or SP, whatever you call it.
What is it?
Sunscreen stuff.
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
it tastes like.
Oh, it does not. Why are you eating it if it tastes like sunscreen?
I mean, it's all right. That's what it tastes like.
It tastes like a real coconut. The peach
I
is
mean,
really good
suntan
too.
oil.
Well, I wouldn't eat it if I thought it tastes like suntan oil.
I can eat anything.
Me and the girls always tease and say we call Matt the garbage disposal because he will eat anything. He will eat it.
No need in wasting food.
What is it you say? You eat like a 14-year-old boy or something?
I used to. I'm not as bad now. I could be. I mean, I like so much other kind of food. I mean, any kind of food I like. I just don't eat as much junk as I used to.
So while we were out harvesting, Matt was just totally impressed by the rattlesnake beans. They did like that last year, though, too.
I remember.
Yeah.
It's just you see all them hanging there in great big bean, full beans, and you just wish you had rows and rows and rows of them.
They are about a week, maybe a week and a half. They were planted before the greasy beans. So I think maybe they'll catch them. Maybe.
What's wild is they've made that good and it been so dry.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so thankful for the rain we got this morning. It was wonderful.
Hope it does it again.
Yeah, it was just a gentle, steady rain for a couple of hours, wasn't it? Several hours. It was great.
And the sun pops out. That makes your garden happy.
Yeah. You know, even though we've been dry, the garden's not really suffered. Ours is not. Some other people's may have, but
Well, we've watered it lots.
yeah, we've watered.
More so than
but then,
we ever have.
I mean, but you look at the woods; they've not either. But we've had such massive amounts of rain for the past 2 to 3 years.
I just hope our new neighbor up here on the side of the hill don't decide to find it and get in it and just waller out everything we got.
Matt's talking about the new neighbor is a bear that we seen.
He is big.
Yeah.
Remember one year I came out one morning right at daylight and walked right into one coming to let the chickens out.
Yeah.
I mean, just walked right up on it. It was just getting gray light.
Was that the one that got in the chicken feed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he came back and got in our chicken feed barrel and turned it over. And it was full. Had 100 pounds of feed in it. He didn't eat any of it, he just turned it over.
He was just seeing what it was, I guess. Yeah.
And then the one that came down the bank, you remember when I come out on the porch at dark one, they went to go put the chickens up and walked into another one right at the steps.
And he was just looking at us.
Yeah. He stood up on his hind feet.
That was kind of spooky.
It was. Pretty cool though to be that close to one.
Yeah. Well, from the safety of the house.
Right.
It wouldn't have been from if he wasn't in the house. So on a day like today when we're harvesting, of course we've been harvesting all along. This is not this is not the first day. You can really see where it really feels like a reward, doesn't it, for all the weeks and months of work leading up to it. And then when you can gather beans and squash and cucumbers and tomatoes, peppers, it's just, and you're like, oh, this is really great. I did all this with the help of the Lord, of course, but yeah, I tended this, I started this and tended it, and now I'm getting to reap the wonderful benefits of it. It's really rewarding.
A lot of hard work, but it kind of pays off when you can begin to get the food, and I like eating some of it just right out of just as soon as you pick it. That's kind of a special thing to me, like the little small tomatoes or the little peppers, and just eat them right off the vine. I really, really like that.
Alright, well, yellow jacket. I thought it was a fly on my finger. It was a yellow jacket. Smelling the popsicle juice, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's the very rewarding part.
And then listening to that canner going with the beans in it, and I really like that too. Especially when you've got just run after run after run of beans. Knowing you can put that up for later and eat it in the cold months.
We might have a cannon from today. I bet we do.
Probably.
Yeah, I bet we do.
That's my favorite part of all of it is canning. Most people, or I would assume most people, don't look at it that way, but for some reason I do.
Yeah, that's your favorite part. I don't know. I like all of it. I love it. The excitement of, and in the beginning when you plant your garden and it's all open and wide and you just seem like you've got so much room and planting it, and then when they first come out of the ground and you're like, oh, look at this little child bean or whatever it is, but then then you're excited when they start climbing just for the beans, and then excited about the first blooms, and then you see the first little beans. There's just excitement all the way through for me. The only part I don't like is when it's all dead and you got to tear it down. I don't mind that it's dead. By that time, you're like, I need a break. But I don't like having to clean it up.
Well, that's one of the downsides of the cow panels and the beans. They're a little aggravating to get out of those cow panels once they die because they break.
Yeah, they dry.
They break in little pieces about that long, and then there's just so much of it to pull off there. But
it's worth it.
It is, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it any other way now that we've started doing that.
Yeah.
The old stringing it and wiring it like we used to, I just don't. This is so much better to me.
So much easier.
Yeah. I mean, the panels stay where they are all the time once you put them in. And you just plant under them year after year after year, and they find their own way. You don't really have to even train them.
Yeah.
They just find their way up the trellis.
It's a very peaceful day.
Mm-hmm. It's 'cause there ain't no motor mouths here.
Who's the motor mouths? Your two daughters?
Yeah. I was thinking as your daughters.
Oh, yeah.
It is kind of ain't like it used to be.
No.
Different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Different but good.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed coming along with us and hearing about the magic of the bean patch and the cornfield. I wish we had a cornfield, don't you? Oh my goodness. There's just something so wonderful about being in a cornfield with the bees when the corn's tossing and the bees are working it. But then when you're in there weaving through the weeds and the morning glories and stuff, and if Granny's nearby, the cornfield beans that she's planted. Getting those ears of corn. It's just such a magical thing.
I miss going down there and pulling ears for supper.
Yeah, just
That's
to be able to go pull them and bring them.
Eat them just that fresh.
Yeah. So we've tried once or twice to grow it up here at our house, but there's just not enough sunshine. No. We just end up with really short, stunted corn. It doesn't grow, and usually it won't even get big enough to tossle, or the ears, if it does grow any, are like worse than a nubbin because they're real thin. They don't have any kernels.
On them.
Yeah, there's just not enough sunshine. But we hope you'll leave a comment and tell us what you have been harvesting in your garden, if you made a garden this year. If you didn't, maybe just what your favorite thing is to eat. I know everyone doesn't have garden space. I'm so thankful for ours, so thankful that we have a place to grow a garden, make a garden, as we would say in here. We make a garden every year, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really thankful for it. And as always, we hope you'll just keep dropping back by to help us celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot of making a garden and harvesting that wonderful food to put up for the winter. Why don't we come out here and sit more often?
Because we're south of the chicken lot.
We turned into those old people that sit in the yard.
Yeah. We'll be all right. We are old people that sit in the yard.
Sit in the porch or in the yard. Seems more secluded back here.
Yeah. I do sit out here a lot and stay away from the warden.
Yeah. You could do like Paula's husband. He's off on the other side of the road down in the woods where they've got some land. You have to go. It sounds like an arduous journey, even though it's not very far, because it's really steep and through a creek and then up, I think. Anyway, he's building a cabin.
What they doing over there?
Building him a cabin.
Just for...
It's not going to have electricity or water or nothing. He's just building it out of stuff he found just for a place to go sit.
Well, he's trying to get away from my hens.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
but
that's what he's doing.
He's got a fire pit, and
that's cool.
He just likes to go over there and enjoy it.
I thought about doing that back here at one time, building just a little something like that. And I was afraid Katie'd move into it.
Remember we talked about building not for a cabin like that, but just for storage out over that, like on stilts. Remember that? We never did it.
It'd be. I mean, once you got that part of it done, got it up where you could do the floor, then the rest of it's just like building a house. It's just, I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
And that'd be a good place to do it, and it wouldn't take up
any of our small amount of yard. Yeah.
Just hang it out over the bank. We put all our gardening tools and stuff in it.
Yeah.
And chicken feed and all that stuff.
Man, my fingers are so sore. Look at that one.
Have you put any of that, what you call it, stuff on it?
I have. I've been putting it on there. I just
It's infected.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, you just need to.
I keep breaking it open. And I don't even know how I done it.
Well, what you need to do is peroxide it good and then dry it off and then put that stuff on it and wrap it.
Yeah, I need to. I was plaiting Corey's hair this morning before they left, and then I reached to grab the hairbrush and every bristle went through there. Gosh, that hurt.
It's rough, ain't it?
Gosh, and then on this hand, that one's broke open.
Yeah.
So it's like both hands are, that's why I'm trying to like do stuff with like this.
Yeah.
And that's why I dropped all the vitamins down the sink last night. How many did I drop down? Like 40?
I don't know. It's just, I finally couldn't reach them with the tweezers anymore, so I went down in the basement and got a screwdriver and stuck down there and started stabbing them.
Oh, God.
And dragging them up to where I could get them with the tweezers. And then there's 4 or 5 of them finally just fell on into the trap, and once they're down there.
They're great old big vitamins,
I know.
aren't they? Yeah.
I run a bunch of water down it trying to push them on through the trap so they'd leave here, and I found a hair bow in there while I was at it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to like not use this finger and not use this finger, so I'm like to this, and I couldn't open them because that is so sore. It is infected, ain't it?
Yeah.
What am I going to do about it?
I just told you.
Whole finger's red.
I have to cut it off.
Of course, I have just been picking blackberries.
Yeah. Oh, it's so red, it hurts. Look at it.
I forgot about the blackberries till I seen my other finger. I thought, well, that's red too. Oh, I was picking blackberries.
Yeah. Yeah, your finger is going to fall off.
Oh, goodness. I usually make the girls doctor it, and neither one of them's here. Anything that
doctor it.
happens to me, I tell them to fix it, and they put calendula oil on it, and that really fixes it. I need to find some and peroxide it and calendula it, and like you said, wrap it up and see if that helps it.
Make you a poultice for it. Get you a poultice out of chicken manure and kerosene.
Yeah. Alright, we ready to get up?
What are we going to do now?
Well, we could go down to Granny's and pick her beans for her, I guess. And that way we won't have to do it tomorrow.
I wouldn't figure there is any if they ain't no more than
Well,
what
we could
picked
go
on.
down there and examine them and see what we think. There is none on the cornfield beans, I'm positive, because they're just barely growing. But her peas are starting to climb. We could look at the peanut beans and see what we think about them.
It's you the job foreman. You just point me where you want me to go.
You're the mule.
I'm the mule.
How do you say mule?
Mule.
And I say mule.
Mule. Yeah, you say it like you've just stepped out of finishing school.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Mule.
Mule is how you say it. I say mew.
Mule.
Yeah. You can't even say it right.
At least I can say bathroom stall.
What's the argument there?
Corey and her stall.
Oh yeah, style.
And her laptop.
Yeah. Bathroom style.
She's got as many as Pap and Granny.
Yeah. And she'll fight you over that.
Menopause.
Yeah. Laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Style. The bathroom style.
Yeah.
It's not a style, it's a stall, Corey. No, it's a style. I wish I could go back, because of course I can't. Maybe you remember though. Do you think Daddy said ideal? Granny doesn't say that. She says idea.
Yeah, I think he said that.
Oh, so somewhere I learned ideal, but I can't remember if he said it or not. You think he did? And that's where I picked it up. Because I say ideal, and you make fun of me for that one.
You were saying that when we met.
I know. I've always said it. I didn't even realize it wasn't a word. I mean, it is a word, but not to mean what I'm using it for.
Yeah.
I didn't know that till you told me.
So you stick around with me, you'll get educated.
I didn't know wasper wasn't a word till Debbie told me one day. She said, you know that ain't a word. We was at Lake Logan. I said, what? And she said, wasper. I said, it is too a word. She said, no, it ain't. Go look in your dictionary. It ain't a word. I said, no, it really is. She said, it's not, Tipper. It's not a word. It's supposed to be wasp.
That's correct.
Yeah. But she did. Anyway, that's when I found out that wasper was not a word. So I was grown and dating you, I guess. She informed me that wasper was not a word.
Let's go if we're going.
All right. 1, 2, 3, jump.
Yeah, I ain't got no jump left.